We don't normally do this on Fridays, but we have a special guest in the audience, and it's Mayor David Pace. There's a lot. Boy, I tell you what, sir, do you wear rhino liner every day? I mean, because you get chips out of the bed of your truck every day, and I don't mean your truck. You know what I mean? There's a lot that needs to be done. I think I've talked about this for like 5 years. Infrastructure-wise, we can't just keep putting Band-Aids on things. And today we have David in studio with Earlene and I to discuss the topics of the working session meeting that's going on next week. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad y'all asked.
And partner in crime, Earlene Bohannon,
Yes.
Our editor. She's actually doing some background work on the story to kind of get it out in the paper, because not everybody just comes to to watch the podcast.
Right. A lot of people don't watch the podcast, or they don't show up for the meetings.
They just don't do social or internet. They want to read it in a paper, but we can't put all of this in a paper.
Right.
You can't write. I mean, we could write for pages. I did the transcription for the meeting that happened Tuesday from the audio. She about threw the thing at me.
He sent it to me. He's like, "Oh, I'll just send you the transcript."
It doesn't translate Kentucky.
No, it's so funny that yeah. It listens to the way they say things, and then it spells it the way it sounds.
Well, before we get into it, I'm going to dig into our sponsors real fast, so just give me 2 seconds. And first, I just want to say thank you to our sponsors who sponsor this show. Raise Ford, I just dropped off. You know, when you go to Raise Ford, they've got a great service department. They'll pick you up at work, they'll bring you back. But if you like to go to Raise Ford to get your service done, you can also read the Messenger. They have a newsstand there, so you can just grab one and read it while you're waiting on them to do the service. But they've also got a great lineup of new cars, and they've got some used cars, but their Ford lineup, their Jeep lineup, fantastic.
Well, you could spend an hour just walking around that old car that they've got in there and reading everything that they've got up on. Yes.
Yeah. Joe Redmond does handyman work. He is your local handyman. If you're looking for somebody to help fix a fence, fix a step, put up a deck, this is your guy. If you don't have time to do those things and you know that it needs to be fixed, call 270-668-2858. Give Joe a call. He is the guy that's standing by for all your handy person needs or landscaping needs. He's got a great crew, and they do good work. I know I had to use him in the winter to shovel a couple of locations for me. Thank you, Terry Hubry, with the Lakeside Bar and Grill, for being our sponsor as well. She sponsors this week's episode. 270-422-3081 for catering information. If you'd like to know what's on their menus, you can give them a call. You can check them out on their social media, on Facebook at the Lakeside Bar and Grill. I will tell you that this Sunday we'll probably be partaking of the breakfast,
and you will not regret it. It's yummy.
Yeah. And the breakfast goes and brunch goes until 2.
Yeah, it starts at 9, so you can go out early if you want to.
Yeah, right after service you can go have breakfast. Pollux Appliance is our final sponsor for this week's podcast, and you can reach them at 270-668-8292. They service what they sell, and you can go to PolluxAppliance.com. You don't have to travel far to get an appliance. You can get one right here locally in Meade County. And back to you guys. David, I want to say first, thanks for coming in here. I'm going to get right to it. I'm just going to hit you. You've got a special meeting. It was rescheduled. It is a working session. Could you tell us what a working session means in City Council? I know you have a requirement in the KRS to say we're having a meeting, because if more than like 3 of you are together, it's a meeting, right? You want to take us through that?
It takes 4 people to be a quorum, and that doesn't include the mayor. And the mayor only votes if there's a tie.
Right.
I can't make a motion, can't second anything, can't vote unless it's a 3-3 tie or whatever's there. The reason we wanted a work session, we have 3 brand new council members that were just elected and took office in January. We didn't have any of this information out and get their feet wet one meeting, so we're having this work session, and it's designed to take every one of the ordinances that we've been proposing to the council, brought up. We're going to go through each one, but it's just the council that will speak. And we will not take questions from the floor. It's a session for training for those, actually the folks that are actually
But
on
people
the council.
can come and watch.
People can come. That's the key. We're trying to do it in City Hall, where are the files, everything are there, not the City Hall maintenance building, which is right beside it, because we had to go, a gentleman questioned us because we had it in the maintenance building. Well, City Hall is all the properties there, and we kept an officer to tell them where to go for the meetings. So, it's just trying our best to make sure they're educated on everything that's been discussed. It's all on the table right now. And this is going to be Monday at 4:30. And right now, it'll be somewhere, if it's not a big turnout, we'll be in City Hall building, not the City Hall maintenance building. So.
I do want to take credit for the turnout. I mean, I kind of threw the news out there, I guess, in a different ways. People are liking what we're doing with the paper. Yeah. But we've been focusing on getting involved and participating in the process, and there was a big turnout. And but these are tough topics. We've long neglected things in Meade County. Something like, we talk about water all the time when we all get together, or we talk about the roads or the safety. This all costs money, right? So it's tough to be in the role of making these decisions, but explain why it's so important to lay it out so everybody understands the problem statement, because you got this sheet right here was handed out to everybody that came, and this is publicly available, and it explains what it cost our city to operate.
That's just general fund.
Yep.
That doesn't take the other 13 accounts that we've got. And I've told everybody this from day one. The city of Brandenburg is not broke.
Yeah.
The city of Brandenburg, the distribution of the funds is what's terrible. We only have certain ways to fund general fund, and that's from property taxes, number one. But there's a few other small things, and that's what we've tried to put in there. These are what's funded from the general fund, and you can see everybody brings up the word transparency. Everything the city of Brandenburg is open record. Everything we do is documented. It's open to anybody can see anytime, any place.
So average person, and they wanted to come and look at something, just someone who has absolutely no knowledge, where do they go to first?
Come Brandenburg City Hall.
And then when they get there, they ask for what?
What their request is.
So if they want to see, budget or numbers regarding a certain situation or subject, they just ask for that.
If they're social or internet savvy, it's on our website.
So it's already on there.
It's already
so
on
public
there.
knowledge.
And because it doesn't update it every month, but it does go through it. We do that every meeting. We go through the funds that are in those accounts and where we are. I'm going to give this council a breakdown of where the budget was, what it was at 6 months, and what percent of that is left to go in the next 6 months. So we're a July 1, June 30th budget cycle. So that's where we have that funds in there.
Now, does your budget roll over like the counties does in the state? Like, if there's money left over, you don't have to give it back, right? It's still your fund.
That's correct. And it's into those accounts. We can't take sewer and water funds and put in general fund. Wish we could. Yeah. We wouldn't have been having this discussion for a year. We could have been able to cover some of that funds. The general funds, the lacking portion of that. And if you've been around Brandenburg for the last week, I'm going to brag on my crews, the police department, our city office. Those guys had about 6 leaks last week, and 2 of those leaks were when it was 15 below zero. So they're earning it, and I'm proud of the way we did on the streets in the city of Brandenburg. I thought we'll put them up against anybody's streets because they did a great job, and we did a lot. But I know that's not what we're here for, but we are going to go over with the council.
But it's those problems that eat at the pocketbook because it was unexpected.
Every one of almost both those leaks were after hours, ran up to midnight, 1 o'clock, and that's all overtime. And that's the part of it that just happens. You can't, and we try to make sure. Right now, it looks like we've got a lot of money. We got our tax money in January, so right now, and it's dwindling as we speak because of those costs that are going on and the costs for things that are normally have probably gone up to anywhere from 10 to 20%.
Okay.
And so for us, the meeting we're going to discuss on there, like for the training for those folks, is the discussion of our budget, how we put it together, and that's our city clerk, Amy Haynes, and myself do that, put most of it. We ask the council we ask our employees, especially department heads, what's your needs? Then you can possibly add a want.
Yeah,
big
I got
difference
you.
between a want and a need. So, and then we'll go from the budget.
I think
part.
the average family today understands needs and wants right now, the way the inflation is. So,
And then from there, we'll actually go from that to Ordinance 637, which is that relating to what was the occupational license fee that I call it. Everybody else calls it the occupational tax. But
well, on it, to be
Well,
fair,
I mean,
it said occupational tax in the reading.
in the meat, but it's titled occupational license fee. So,
I gotcha.
All right.
But
Hey, I'm just telling you, the plain and simple, they're going to go, it says it right there. I don't know why you're trying to play a twist on, but that's what people, I think, get most upset about. Do you think that it was a named fee because of the state going away from income tax?
Well, most everything we got for this to put this together came from other areas, and most of them do call it. If you look at Vine Grove, which followed right behind us, it's an occupational license fee.
Yep.
So it's all in the wording of what you want it to be. That's just like when people buy a business and change the name. It's how you want it to be perceived. And I didn't want it to come off right off the bat as a negative.
Right.
We wanted to give us a chance to explain it. So
Yep. And I think you've in a previous podcast you talked about if we take that much money, you were going to give it back. I mean, you were on the record as saying that. I'm going to throw. I didn't mean to do this. Don't take it the wrong way. Joe Biden said he wasn't going to impeach his son. That's what somebody would come back and say. You know what I mean? So there's always questionable, and we talked about this before the show. There's always people that are going to challenge your word, and I think that's what sucks because there's a lot of people that I've talked to that know your passion for the county and the community. You were duly elected. It's not like people didn't get a chance to cast their vote. We had early voting, everything, and we had write-ins. So if you thought that this wasn't the right guy, it's tough sitting in the leader position and having to make these tough choices. So you're having this meeting to bring the new council people up to speed. How do you think that's going to go? Because obviously, they're elected too, and you've got some new members to the panel.
Most of them have been attending a lot of our meetings prior to the election, and since that, they've attended. They got their first meeting in January, and I think most of them have heard a lot of it, but they've never been in the hot seat. And our goal was to have it either passed or failed at December.
Right.
And that way I wasn't putting that kind of pressure on a brand new council member if there's a crowd there.
What motivated you to table it?
He didn't.
I didn't.
Well, who did?
It was brought up by two council members, made a motion, a second, and they voted 5-1 to table it.
Okay.
They wanted the new council to have to live with their decision.
Well, I ask you that because I wanted people to understand, because not everybody, but several people that I talked to, they were like, oh, the mayor this, the mayor that, the mayor that. And they don't realize that there's actually a group of people that all work together, and that some things are out of your choice or out of your hands to handle. But yet, because you're the figurehead, you're the one that they hold responsible for. So maybe they don't understand all the inner workings of all the people that are in play to make a decision.
And this would probably be a good time for me to mention the committee we put together.
It would be a good time for that.
We have our council members, but we couldn't have everybody on the committee, so we had two on there. We had Bruce Fackler and Yolanda Clark. Yolanda lost on a coin flip and not on the council. David Woodward won that. But our goal is trying to get multiple business owners within the city. And why did we pick certain one? I went with the most employees, what we kind of looked at. And we didn't want to get the school involved because they didn't want to be a part. So we had some of the largest people and some of the ones that were most vocal and brought them in. We went through the city finances with them. We went through what the goal of it was, what the need of it was. And that's the whole reason we laid that out. And that committee made a recommendation to the council that these funds were needed. And it needed to be done quicker rather than later because that hole just gets deeper. And that's where the newer ones, the older ones.
So you're saying you just want to get in front of it
Right.
before the checks are due.
Well,
So then,
that's
so,
true.
I'm sorry,
And,
but
and that's what our whole goal with that is, not to force it down, but it was a whole lot easier, we felt like, to let the new council come in and make a decision after the fact. If they didn't like it, we brought it up again. But now they're starting off going to have to make a hard decision on their second meeting if they want to bring it off the table. If they don't want to bring it off the table, that's where we stay.
right.
Yeah.
But don't expect the services to be everything they have been.
Exactly. So when this discussion comes up in the community, at restaurants, in the store, or whatever, just in people just visiting, and they say, yeah, but he didn't think twice about giving himself a raise or giving them a raise. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I love to talk about that.
I'd like to hear about it.
What did you call them? Keyboard warriors who just
Keyboard
love
warriors.
to bounce on the thing, but leave out all the facts that surround.
Well, they say it face to face. I mean, if we're just like
I don't
gathering
know.
for something, they all want to say, well, he gave himself a raise and everybody on that council got a raise and now they want us to pay for it. That is pretty much it in a nutshell.
That's the
I would tell you, I'd be lying if I didn't think for 1 second I almost could have got wrapped up in that until I actually dug into it and had a conversation, which you've openly said, anytime you have a question, just give me a call.
Well,
And
let him explain
Yep.
it to everybody. That's
Yeah,
listening.
please.
Well, our goal with that is, number one, is our council and the mayor are actually, if you do what we did for due diligence, we went to every community around us, not just Radcliffe or E-Town, the
Right.
bigger ones, and Vine Grove. The mayor in Vine Grove makes $55,000, or just that was the adjustment. They were 49,000. They got a raise to go. Radcliffe mayor, $64,000. The E-Town mayor, I didn't want to know, because the city mayor, when I appointed for 2024, the mayor of Brandenburg makes $24,000.
Oh, wow.
So, anybody wants to come see that? I honestly didn't even know what the salary was, to be honest with you. Just coming in trying to help us get through Brian's term. And so the sitting council, and I've explained this hopefully where it's understandable, the sitting council for 2026 had to set the salaries for 2027. So everybody said,
So
well, we gave-
before they even showed up to vote in November, and they had a chance to choose who was going to be there or not be there, you don't know who's going to be the recipient of that money until after the election. Is that correct?
See, I think that was June. You have to do that by calendar.
Right.
And if it's going to be done. And from that point, we actually had 2 people
Sure.
that actually are going to get that salary increase that
Oh.
are on the council.
Okay.
I don't have a vote. I can't make a motion, can't make a second. The council sets the mayor's pay. They took the time, the effort of the due diligence work, plus what the time of the city is requiring more and more of that position. And I believe the city of Brandenburg will be near a full-time mayor, and it will not be David Pace.
Yeah, you say we've had a personal conversation about that. Yeah. You can only wear so much rhino liner.
And that's,
Yeah.
I try to tell people that if I was in it for the money, I'd be pushing Troy.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
that would be but I don't. I'm not in it to do that. And our whole goal is everything we do.
Yeah.
That salary increases. 2 council members that voted out of 6 are the only ones that get that salary.
Okay.
The others were all new. They're coming in, and I think they make $3,000 a year as a council member.
Yeah.
Wow.
With the incremental increases right over time.
And that takes 2 years every time you do an increase. The mayor's increase was 50%. Now I make $36,000 a year.
Which is still less than the Vine Grove.
By
Mayor.
over $12,000.
What was Radcliffe mayor?
I think he's in the 60-some thousand
Okay.
range.
Well-
Yeah, that's a much different.
Can you even guess how many hours a week you put in as mayor?
I hope my wife's not listening, but I'm usually there between 8 and 8:30ish, and the good thing about the mayor job and the industrial authority job, and I'll explain that a little bit, they work hand in hand. The mayor has to be involved in these economic development moves that we're trying to make, the growth along the bypass, things like that. And
Growth and safety. Growth and safety.
And some of our, I think probably somewhere between 6 to 7 hours a day. And that includes me taking hot chocolate on the weekends when they're fixing water leaks at 15 below zero. You know, it's just the things you do to make it. In summer, we're trying to meet with companies to make park improvements, what this money would be used for. I've got a goal of wanting outdoor pickleball courts. I've got a goal for a splash pad, which we've already laid out, met with Lincoln Trail Area Development District for funding. And folks don't realize.
And grants, too. I think y'all are working grants.
We have 5 grants. And one of the big things that we were discussing in this with a shortfall was the problem with it was $1 million grant. Well, the previous administrations borrowed the money to cost so they could move ahead with the grant. The grant portion of that, it took about 18 months to get about 2/3 of the money. And it took about 5 more months to get the other, the other third. But in that time frame, almost a little over 2 years, you know what happened?
Tell me.
Interest.
They charged the interest on that money.
Yeah.
So even though we've gotten all of our grant money, we've applied it, paid back our loan, we're still about $100,000 short to pay that interest off. So I've not stolen money from anywhere yet. We're still using that. And now that it's down to $100,000, it's a lot more manageable than it was at $1 million.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
But I applaud our previous administration for doing what they did. If not, I wouldn't have water to sell and a sewer system that can grow. We've doubled our water. We can do 2 million gallons of water a day.
So what you're telling me, and I just want to make sure I got this right, is that the previous administration, they robbed Peter to pay Paul. Don't take this in the wrong way. But the payoff is that because they took that risk to see a long-term gain, is now we're able to put in these developments and other things and can handle the load that they will require on the system. Is that correct?
We like I said, we went from only having 1 million gallons and only supposed to sell 80% of that to a 2 million gallon capacity that you could probably do almost 90% because of the efficiency we have. Our wastewater treatment plant was about a 300,000 gallon plant that we were probably already under a directive from the state of Kentucky, fix it or else.
So build, baby, build.
And we doubled the size of the sewer treatment plant.
Very good.
So as a developer, as the economic development side, which this was already begun before, but it's the greatest thing we have. I can recruit retail, I can recruit and tell them all, we got everything you need.
Yep.
But what I try to tell people, they don't understand, every day Brandenburg doubles in size. We have 3,000 citizens, but some of those still drive out of the county. But you think about every morning when you open it, if a person that doesn't live in Brandenburg that comes to work here, and the school system is a tough one because you got all those 1,600 kids in one building, and then you've got every teacher, every custodian, everybody. It just makes it so much harder for you to do that, and you know, and to keep it affordable. And that's the one thing. And that was one of the questions that was brought up at one of the meetings. Well, what did Nucor get out of this? Well, we sell Nucor water, and we have a 15-acre site, and we sold 10 acres of that to Nucor. Why did we do that? Because we sold them that at a price that it paid for half of that sewer treatment plant. So instead of the citizens of Brandenburg paying for the influx of everybody to work in Brandenburg, it gave us the funding to be able to pay for most of this with the grant and the sale of the property. Now then, we're able to...
Even with the interest, the cost to put that in is because of those coordinations is far less than the burden would have been on the city to continuously be paying on a loan right now.
Well, you had to, and they still had to raise everybody's sewer rate by 5% to make it work. But that's to pay for half. What would that have been if it hadn't sold that?
To pay for the whole thing, right?
So, because we have a time situation here,
You're good.
I'm wondering if I could ask a couple of questions and you
Say
can
I'm
just.
talking too much.
No, I didn't say that.
No, you're good. Go ahead,
you and
Earlene.
Stephen together. I mean, both of you are little chatty Cathys.
For the record, you told me to, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Just tease.
Anyway, so there's a couple of questions I want to ask. One, and these are things that people have actually said to me because they're like, oh, you're the editor of the paper. You need to find out, da-da-da-da-da. What other actions were considered before the tax increase or before you introduced this? Did you guys consider something else?
Well, I'll tell you where it came from. Well,
okay.
it came up. We were in a budget meeting at the going through bills and talking about putting our budget for this year together, and we were so slim. And I'll tell you, in the 2024 budget, the city of Brandenburg lost in general fund probably $267,000.
Okay.
And then the budget for 2025 that Amy and I put together, we were going to be to the positive $11,580, something like that, close. Do you know what one pump costs us for the sewer lift stations? About $5,000.
Oh, I see.
So our 11,000 won't last very long, but it was in the positive. The 267,000, we had to make it up.
Right.
And the unfortunate part, we paid it, but it wasn't where it needs to be.
Sure. I
And
get it.
if
I get
we-
it.
if
It's
we
like an
keep
emergency
digging,
fund.
It's what
Yeah,
it's supposed to be.
I understand.
And, our goal is not to put millions of dollars in a general fund account.
Right.
We do want enough money to pay those bills and for the emergencies to be able to add to that, to add the police officer. Our goal is we want 24/7, 365-day coverage. It hasn't been there. The city of Brandenburg officers, and I'm sorry I'm talking too much, city of Brandenburg officers went down to, we had 4 officers working. What does that mean? You're paying overtime for almost every officer that
And
works.
if we had more officers, it would
Now-
ultimately cost less in the long run.
Cover.
We
Yeah.
are completely coverage with officers. We have 6 officers. One of those is school resource officer that will come out and work for us when school's not in session or an emergency situation. But we need those extra. Vine Grove has 15 police officers. They're not that much bigger than Brandenburg, and we've got 6, 5.5.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I see what you're saying.
I'll
So
go.
another question that has come up a lot is, well, they snuck that reading in. He just slid that in, and so there's people who think that you haven't been as forthright and as transparent as they wanted you to be. Can you explain either how that happened or why would anybody think that if it's not true?
Well, let me. First question I ask everybody: define transparent.
Okay.
Everything the city of Brandenburg has, everything we do is open record. To anybody that wants to come to City Hall, you can go online, look at all of our information, come there. I've told everybody that. I've had 2 people take me up on that.
Just
To
2
come in
people
there.
have actually come in and done
2
that?
people.
Okay.
In
It's
fact,
a whole lot easier to go to McDonald's.
just not to take a side here, but the announcement of the meeting and the agenda were both publicly made available through the Meade County Messenger. The meeting was announced just as y'all always do the meetings. We usually get them in advance, and we publish them at the request, and that's in support of the KRS. Most people don't know that you're required by law to announce those meetings. The other problem that I will also say is, honestly, hey, we should put a tax in the meeting every week so we get more people to show up and participate in the process.
Right.
Because
so many people showed up for that.
They did, and now they're involved more than just a soundbite.
Right.
But most of them came in with wrong information.
They sure
right,
did.
Right. And it was a heated meeting. And then it actually, for what we can see, it got closed down towards the end. Like somebody was challenging. I don't know if they were challenging
that's a different
you or
meeting. But the
whatever.
first
Yeah.
meeting, yeah.
Well, let me kind of explain that a little bit, talking about how those come up. city of Brandenburg or any municipality, city, the number one thing you have to do, if it's something you're working on, you have a first reading. There is no vote. You read what you're trying to do in your ordinance. That gives you 30 days for the council or anybody in the community that wants to see it. We provide that copy. It's open to the public. That ordinance has to be read for us to go forward. So we gave you 30 days, and when I say we, the city council, put it out there for 30 days for people to discuss it. Some people have been asked about the ABC ordinance.
I was going to bring that up next because I've had a lot of people ask me about that.
And I'll get to that. And let me talk about the meeting that shut down. That was not the first meeting. This was one of probably the first ones in the maintenance side where we're in a larger area. We had a gentleman who had wanted to speak. Well, we were trying to answer him of his questions. We wouldn't stop. He wouldn't let us talk back to give him the information we needed. Several people in the crowd were trying to get him to calm down, to let us answer the questions, and he just kept getting worse.
Yeah.
Well, and that was the first meeting we had dialogue between the citizens or anybody that lives anywhere that worked in the city of Brandenburg could attend that meeting.
Sure.
Well, it got to the point that it was unproductive for us, and we didn't want it to become a hostile situation.
Right.
So it was brought to me by the chief of police. This might be a good time to adjourn. And I looked at the council. He said what we said, and that's when we voted.
So you, David Pace, did not shut him down on your own.
No, it was brought to me that the situation was getting where they felt wasn't safe, and when they brought that to us, brought it up to the council. If somebody wants to make a motion to adjourn, we had a motion, a second. It was all
right. It's supposed to be a peaceful conversation. Would they follow the Roberts rules? I'm sure there's some guidelines by the state of Kentucky for specifics, but outbursts or hostilities in a public session of elected officials is not on the OK button. I think we saw a lot of that in a lot of the, even on national television. All of that falls downhill.
And we were going to answer, if not else, we asked, could we get your name and information? We'll send you anything you ask for. Well, he wouldn't tell us.
Oh, he didn't give you any of that. Oh, he didn't introduce himself?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
See, and this is one of the things I'm talking about. Like, this flew all over social media when this happened. And everybody wanted to put in their opinion. This is what I think, or this is what I saw. And people were playing little clips of it, on their different platforms. And so.
And they only gave you the clip. They didn't give you all of the build-up to the situation that occurred.
That is right.
But it's okay.
And before that, it was perfect. Everybody that or may have been a little upset, but it was never this way or that way. It was even keeled. We were answering questions, and really a great meeting till just boom, it was out of control.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to run down 3 questions, and then obviously we got to come to an end, and I would love to talk longer. Okay, so these come out. Do we need you can go to the yes or no. Do we need a consumption tax on food when we have not seen the returns from the alcohol tax yet and or the housing development?
Well, kind of more than a yes or no.
All right, go ahead.
The problem with that is the ABC ordinance was changed in Frankfurt this last year to go effect January 1. Our ABC officer at the city of Brandenburg attended that training and came back with these. Several places in the city of Brandenburg had not been paying what they should have been paying.
To the city.
To the city of Brandenburg. And it was such a small amount. The ABC is designed to go for police education, drinking, things like that.
For the record, you're not going backwards and collecting back taxes.
Oh, no.
No, this is from this point forward. You could, but you're not.
No.
Technically, you could do that in state law, right?
That's correct.
Because,
Back
okay.
5 years.
I could imagine.
Also in that, nobody's the same. I mean, by the drink is a 5%. By alcohol, when we say bourbon type things, it's 4%, and beer is 3%.
Okay.
So nobody's the same, but several of our restaurants, money went down for the way that it was being taken care of for them. And some, by the drink, are paying more money, and it's on their gross income is where it is.
Income from sales of liquor,
That's correct.
alcohol, beer, etc. Correct.
If you go today to RTS or somewhere in Brandenburg, on some of them, it already has city tax on their receipt. So it is, people can realize now, some of them, like corporate ones, are delayed. They're at a different time frame. So their portion is not on the receipts yet. And
But if you're a local small business, you've got to reprogram your machine and take the account. Now that means that the consumer is the one paying that tax, correct?
That's correct.
So the consumer is paying. Here's your $4 whatever item it is. You've got your Kentucky sales tax. And then there is another tax that's the city tax because you're selling alcohol.
It depends on which one, and that's governed from Frankfurt for that. Those applications,
I gotcha.
those license are driven out of Frankfurt.
So why did y'all choose not to go back 5 years and collect all that money from all the businesses in the county?
Well, probably some of it wasn't the restaurant or other people's fault. I think we were behind the 8 ball a little bit of not keeping our ordinance up to date. So we started fresh in 2025 with what it should be.
Okay.
And going forward, was trying to be a good neighbor, even though some people just.
You could have been greedy.
And we could have gone out to that. But our whole goal.
But I guess I'm getting, why weren't you greedy?
Well, I felt like I had enough going on with the citizens and things like that.
Okay.
And that was one of the things that you brought up was that consumer tax. Well, the whole goal of this was from that very first meeting, what could we do to make it where that person had a little control?
Yeah.
Better control.
I have choice, yeah.
You know, and when I put that out there, I got accused of being ruthless to people. And when I said, if a $50 meal, that 2% on a consumption tax was going to make or break a person, I said they probably needed to consider going out to eat. Ugly, it was factual.
Yeah.
It was what we were trying to tell people. But the thing I think people didn't understand and wasn't explained on social media, and I'll let you know right now, I do not get on social media as a platform. We had probably from the committee the best alternative around to offer people. We had 2026, there would have been a 0% payment. The companies would have done a reporting for a year.
Yeah.
2026, it would have been 1/3%.
Wow. Yeah, I got you.
1/3%. And the most it could be in 2027 was up to 0.5%. But the best part of that whole deal from that point was we put a ceiling. If you made $75,000 a year and above, you only had to pay a flat fee of $250.
Yep.
So a person made $200,000 a year got one heck of a deal. And unfortunately, people did look at the only thing that came from that meeting and that percentage, the way we said it, was we probably needed to look if somebody made below $15,000 a year, they didn't start. It should have been between. Honestly, I feel like it should be 15,000 or 20, and go to 100.
Okay.
And then that way it makes up for the lower, not making a hardship on somebody that makes less.
Yeah.
And that's something we're still discussing, but that was the key to that. And everybody and his brother put out that I was running Powers Paper Company out of Brandenburg.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh
think
yeah.
they-
That was talked about a
recruited
lot.
them 29 years ago. I was the one that got with Tara and Martin Powers, brought them to Brandenburg. They've built 6 times. Martin is one of the members of the committee because his wife was upset. He was upset because they were going to be, their salaries would be taxed. When we brought Martin in, and he did buy a building in Radcliffe.
The old Kmart.
I wasn't going to go there, but okay.
Yeah. No.
I will.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
discussed it. And one of the
And
things
their tax for employee is
2.25%.
higher than you were asking, I
A
know.
lot higher. And it's a storage warehouse building that he's putting in for storage.
Yeah.
He produces it out of Brandenburg. And Mr. Powers stood right in our our December meeting, and from the committee standpoint, he told it. the city of Brandenburg needs it, so we have those utilities. But the key factor that he told there that night was, folks, I am not leaving Brandenburg.
Right.
That's good.
All right.
And that meant more.
But because there was more of an explanation, I feel like there was
So-
some more questions answered.
You asked a question a while ago. You said, so what is transparency? This is what I'm going to think. Not everybody can follow the language and the dialogue that is often used in these meetings. You know, it just goes over people's heads. And so for me, your transparency improvement would be never assume that people know what you're talking about. So say it in a way that
Earlene tells me this all the time.
I do because you talk over my head all the time, and so I'm like, no, take it down.
That's
take
why
it
I
down.
put earmuffs on and we do it on a podcast.
I'm like, I teach preschool, so
good. Go ahead.
take it down to me. So I think that the way you've explained things today have been very clear, and I think that maybe as you meet with the council and you say to them, explain it so that the person who knows nothing about can at least grasp part of it. And I think that would help.
Sorry.
That's okay.
One of the last things that she got a chance to do before she was off the council was Yolanda Clark. If you ever get a chance, go back, look at our December meeting, and I thought she gave the best talk to the citizens of Brandenburg or an employee in the city of Brandenburg. She did a great job of talking to people one-on-one. It was her telling
I wished
them
I had a
what
clip
they
of
needed.
that.
And
We do. It's online. You can go pull it down.
WVIH has that.
Okay.
And it's on the Brandenburg City website.
Yeah.
You can watch the entire meeting playback. Real quick, final question. All of this money is going to generate something. What is the bottom line dollar amount we're trying to get to for this problem statement? What is it the number that's listed on the bottom of this page?
Well, our goal on that was that was what we're currently out. This is a little
Per
dated
month.
already. I've said all along, we haven't been able to get that information we need
Right.
until we have an ordinance passed. But our goal in the whole thing was trying to get us to $400,000.
Yeah.
And I said that before. If it's $1 million, if the businesses, if there's a way to refund it or not have it the next year,
Yeah.
if it's above that cost. Some of the CFOs for these companies have already said, don't refund, hold it for next year
Yeah.
and not charge for the following year. We're not wanting $1 million bank account that we dive into to chrome our
Yeah.
water tires and things like that. This is a proven need.
Yep.
That we've shown our records. And please, if you've got, or just like I just said earlier,
Yeah,
all you got to do is ask.
I love that.
Hey, listen, I hate to cut this, but I'm going to tell you where you can find out more information. You can actually go to the newspaper. Earlene is in writing mode. She's been taking notes, and I know she's going to play this back. And as I shut the show down, she's got more questions for David behind the scenes. But honestly, the best questions can be your questions. Send us a line in the chat, and we'll make sure that we get it to David. He is working hours to support the position of mayor of the city of Brandenburg. And Mayor, I just want to say thank you again for being on the show today, taking some of the hard questions that we've heard and answering them. I do think that, I've told you, I said, we could have probably painted a better picture. And to Earlene's point, that maybe helped better explain this in a way. But at the end of the day, the working session is happening next week. You can join in and listen as they do the work and listen to your leadership that was voted and elected upon as they navigate what is best for the city. And the thing I would leave everybody with is, and I'm just going to conclude, thank you, David, for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yep. And I'm going to switch over to me. What I want to tell you is it's not easy to make these decisions, but we cannot do a Band-Aid duct tape job, baling wire job on things that apply to our resources, our needs, not our wants. As they continue to seek out the grants and the things that they're working behind the scenes for some of those wants and asks, we must build an infrastructure that holds up to the growth that we're going to receive over time. And I think that's the work that's going to be done on Wednesday. And and somebody's got to pay for it, guys. I don't know how else we get there, but hopefully the craft and the work that y'all do behind the scenes at the city of Brandenburg gets resolved in the next meeting. So I just want to say thanks, everybody, again, and y'all keep tuning in. We'll keep trying to keep you informed and talk to the people that are making the decisions. So check out some of our podcasts. We had Brett Guthrie on last week. And for more about this topic, pick up the paper next week.
That's right.
And or watch this podcast.
Absolutely.
Bye, guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.